Hey, everyone. So this is our last show of season 2. And as such, we need a little help from you, our audience. Please go to npr.org/podcast survey to take a quick survey about the show. It's going to help us learn more about our audience so we can connect to more people like you. Again, that's npr.org/podcast survey.
What's up, everybody? Peace. Just heads up, there may be some strong language in this episode. Ooh.
Some bad words.
You know when I met Dre? At my 40th birthday party. I walked into my 40th birthday party in L.A. with Dr. Dre.
And this time, the security guards let you in.
Nobody saw me. All they saw was Dre. I was like, it's my birthday.
Hey, everyone. This is Stretch Armstrong.
My name is Bobbito Garcia. Together, we are the hosts of What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito. This is our last episode of season 2, Stretchy.
It is the final hurrah.
Le boo. But we have a special guest, Robert Glasper, 3-time Grammy Award winner, Emmy Award winner. He's probably going to win an Oscar and Tony before this is said and done. He actually shares that strategy in this upcoming episode, right?
Strategy.
He has a plan, yo. He has a plan.
His latest project is called R+R=Now. And he is just one of the most connected dudes in jazz and hip-hop and bridges that gap beautifully. He hails from Houston, Texas, but has called New York his home since 1997. Yeah. And in that time, he has collaborated with so many people that we have a shared history with.
Sure.
Like Common,
Q-Tip,
Bilal,
The Roots,
Yasin Bey, a.k.a. Mos Def.
100% Stevie Wonder, Erykah Badu, who have both been guests.
Quincy Jones.
Oh.
And on this show, like on a few others earlier in the season, we opened up the What's Good hotline and asked you, the listeners, to call up and tell us about your connection to jazz music.
Boom!
I'll be honest with you, I'm still trying to figure out jazz music. I mean, that's the beauty, right?
I was actually introduced to jazz first time through the Cosby Show. Dizzy Gillespie was on there, and I had to go and ask my dad, like, who is this guy and what does he do? I just took it from there, and Cosby Show just opened my eyes.
When I was about 3 or 4, my mother used to play this guy named Al Jarreau, and she would be watering her plants and playing Al Jarreau, and that's the first memory I had.
So I actually played jazz saxophone from when I was like 9 until I was about 19. Jazz was really the first music I actually did understand, and I think that laid the foundation for everything else.
Pete Rock introduced me to jazz without even me really realizing what was going on. I was an elementary school kid. I started learning those jazz songs that Pete Rock sampled from, and I've been a jazz lover ever since.
I'm actually so glad you got Robert for this episode because he was and still is somewhat of a gateway drug into the genre for me. So at some point, my brother introduced me to the Robert Glasper trio, and that's when I finally understood the soul, the complexity, and versatility in jazz.
Amazing, amazing. Thanks to everyone who called in and shared. We really love hearing your messages. So please, when we send out the APB on the What's Good hotline, keep them coming.
Coming up next, Robert Glasper. Some things were meant for each other. Fries and milkshakes, selfies and duckface. And now, What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito and Spotify. Yes, the same app that has millions of songs now also has thousands of podcasts.
On Spotify, you can listen to all your favorite shows and discover new ones. To subscribe to ours, search for What's Good with Stretch and Bobbito, tap follow, and get every new episode delivered to you.
Podcasts on Spotify. They're streaming right now. And now.
When the world seems out of hand, you can count on the StoryCorps podcast for your dose of humanity. Unscripted conversations between real people about the things that matter most. This season, 12 all-new episodes about reunions and what it means to connect at this moment in our nation's history. Episodes are available every Tuesday.
It's funny, like, men expressing love for each other.
Yeah.
They usually have to, like, end it with a bro.
It gotta
yo,
be
love
extra,
you, bro.
You gotta throw extra gangster on it.
Yeah. Love you, bro. Love
guns,
you, B. It can't be like, yo, I love you.
They be like, love you, guns.
Love you, guns.
Guns, nice. They start naming shit. Football, basketball, just name shit. Anything masculine, they start naming shit.
We're back in studio with Robert Glasper.
Oh yeah.
Robert, what's up?
Y'all don't have a clap simulator or nothing?
Nah, we just...
That was really anticlimactic.
I do this, and Bob goes, aplauso, aplauso, aplauso.
Aplauso, por favor.
Right.
We could probably add him in post.
We should add him in post. That'd be awesome. Yeah. I love it.
So you just finished a 1-month residency at the Blue Note. 48 shows.
48 shows.
How does one even prep for that?
I don't know. It was... Man, look, I don't know how I got through it.
Was that your idea?
No. I think the club asked my management, because they do it from time to time with different, well, they've only done it like 3 times, only with 3 artists. Dizzy Gillespie did it like in the 90s.
Heard of
so
him.
I'm the youngest person to do it in general. But they came to us with the idea, and because I have my hand in so many different projects, and I have a few different bands, so they're like, you can do that, and do whatever you want the whole month. So I was like, oh, all right.
So you're doing 2 shows a night.
I did 2 shows. Well, I did 2 shows a night. So for 48 shows, 24 nights, 48 shows, and I did Tuesday through Sunday. Monday was my day off, but really Monday was prep for the rest of the week. And we sold out 44 of the 48 shows.
Wow.
Completely sold out.
Prop show.
Tremendous.
Wait, insert the clap button.
The clap's right there. Exactly.
So, Robert, what are your earliest music memories?
My earliest music memories are from my mom. Man, I remember being 3, because my mom was a singer and a pianist, and she sung all the genres, man. Funk, jazz, R&B. She didn't sing hip-hop, but gospel, you know what I mean? And so I literally remember being like 3 in rehearsals, sitting against the wall watching and falling asleep, going to sleep, waking up, they still rehearse, and to the point where, and also my mom, she wasn't a big fan of random people watching me, like babysitters. She needed to be around me. If my aunt couldn't watch me, no one was watching me. You know what I mean? So she used to bring me to the clubs when she's performing, like doing her sets. So she would have me in the back room and have the waitresses she knew, walking in, checking on me while she's doing her set. She would run off between songs and check on me. Oh, yeah. I was at the club. She just didn't do babysitters. Now I understand why. As a dad now, you hear horror stories, and
sure.
And maybe sometimes you just didn't have the money, to be flat out,
Right.
So you got to do what you got to do. But I remember her parking the car right by the door of a club in the back, and me having to stay in the car because I wasn't allowed. Somehow they wouldn't allow me in the club.
Yeah.
So she had to come out in between songs like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And check, like literally that happened. I know that happened one time. Probably never again, because that's weird.
Yeah.
But that shit happened, But I was always around the music and around the hustle, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Of doing music and needing to make ends meet, and seeing my mom have the passion for music and seeing her work other jobs. So she would work from 9 to 5 at a everyday job, and then come home and change and be out the door by 7 to go to her job that's from 7 to 3 a.m. You know what I mean? My mom would go to work at 7. She said, when I come back home, you better be sleeper on that piano. So if I was awake, I was allowed to be awake and play. The one thing she would not take away from me is playing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I was able to be up, but be on the piano.
What's the first time you jumped on stage with her as a piano player?
Once I started driving, which was like in Houston, I was like 14. You could drive. I used to drop her off at work, which was this bar called the Bistro Vino in Houston. When I would pick her up from work around, 12 o'clock, midnight, I'll pick her up. I used to have to park the car, go upstairs, and I had to play the last song with her, every night when I would pick her up. The bartender knew the director of the High School for the Performing Visual Arts. He was like, yo, your son's really talented.
Word.
I can hook it up to where he could get an audition for, this jazz director at the High School for Performing Arts. There's only one there in Houston, and you had to be zoned to it to go. But he was like, he needs to go there. They'll pull strings.
Even though you weren't zoned.
Even though I wasn't zoned.
Ooh.
So I went there, did an audition.
Crushed it,
and I ended up going there. That really pushed me to be at that high school with that much talent. My first year of high school, I went to Elkins High School, regular high school. And I was the piano guy at the high school. You know, they would have me play all the new hip hop songs. I remember when I Need Love came out. Everybody was, yo, Rob, play that I Need Love. Fool. You know, I had to play that on the piano, and I had to play all the Brian McKnight songs for the girls. You know, I was that dude.
So you can play by ear and read.
That's what I first learned. I first learned playing by ear, learning Luther Vandross songs off of. Cause my mom and my dad played Luther Vandross. Lufa. I used to, man, look, the reason why I play piano is because of Luther Vandross and Anita Baker.
Really?
And my mom. Seeing my mom play. That album. And yeah, bro, like for real, I told Anita that when I finally met her and stuff like that. I was like, yo, Giving You the Best I Got, Sweet Love, certain songs just made me want to play the piano. And, you know, and with Luther Vandross too, they both used real piano. Anita Baker, when I got a chance to go and record with her not too long ago, she never records without a piano. When she's doing her vocals, there's a piano player playing the piano. It's not a track that they gave her, and she sings over the track. You know, so that just attracted me, you know.
So your mother performed under the name Kim Yvette?
Yep.
And I think we have some audio of her singing.
Look at his face.
Uh-oh.
Which we'd like to play.
Oh, yeah. And this is her Rita Franklin vibe. Listen, you can hear it.
Someone on whom I could depend on. Someone who loves and cares. Somebody.
Oh, this is her gospel recording. So she started doing gospel like late 90s, early 2000s. But before that, she was all like disco, pop, R&B. But she always was the music director at church. So she would do the disco, pop, R&B stuff during the week. And then she was literally Whoopi Goldberg. Like, she was Sister Act. And then Sunday morning, she was the music director at church. So that's funny. Y'all are literally the first interview I've ever done where they played my mom.
Oh, dope, man.
Never did that before, ever, in my life.
And now, did you stay going to church?
No.
With your mom? Your mom didn't?
No. Well,
insist?
no. I did, no. Well, she wanted me to. So when I moved from Houston to New York for college, my pastor at the church I went to, Ratliff, he made a call, and I was immediately working at a church called Canaan Baptist Church in Harlem.
Oh, yeah.
116th.
Word.
Yeah. So immediately.
Right off of 7th Ave.
Yep.
Yeah.
And my first 2 days, when I landed the next day, I was at choir rehearsal, you know, and I played at that church for about 2 years. But then I started going on tour with different people.
I used to live down a block.
Yeah.
The church joint was the jump off.
Yeah.
I mean, I would walk to the train station on Sunday mornings, and there'd be a line.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, it was like Michael Jackson performing.
100%, yeah.
Like not just Harlem residents, but I'm talking about like tourists from Europe and Asia. Like, like
busloads
around the corner.
Yeah, bro.
And you up in there like rocking.
I was up in there, yeah.
You know, we read that you lost your mother to tragic circumstances back in 2004. And you said on Twitter, my mother was murdered 13 years ago today, the week of my birthday. I turned that pain into fuel and inspiration to be better and make her proud. So you had this like deep musical connection with your mother.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, all these years later, if that's something that still feels like a vital and active connection.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You know, she's always with me. She was my biggest fan. You know the moms that overly brag for no reason? This is like, you know, she was just a bragger, and she always made sure that I felt good about myself and that I was always good enough and you're great. You know what I mean? Like, as a black man coming up, you need that as a boy, you know, and especially because a lot of times went to white schools and stuff like that. So I think she also felt the need to make sure I felt that, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, she's 100% always there, always. And my son looks just like her.
Oh, dope! I mean?
Wow.
And at times he tells me he misses her. He never got to meet her. You know, but he'd be like, I miss Grandma Kim. You know what I mean? And I'd be like, wow, she's right there. You know, you don't even know. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's 100% there for sure.
Dope.
Yeah.
You did a Grammy award-winning soundtrack called Miles Ahead for Miles Davis.
Yes. Yes, that was awesome.
That has to be awesome, but
That was amazing.
that's got to be daunting too, I would
Oh,
imagine.
my Jesus. First of all, it's the first thing I've ever did soundtrack-wise. And so Don Cheadle tweeted me. That's how I got the part. He tweeted me. He was like, yo, I love your music. And I was like, thanks. You're Don Cheadle. That's literally what I said back to him. And then we got to DMing.
You literally wrote that to
I
him?
literally said, you're Don Cheadle.
That's not a response to a request.
I know. I just couldn't believe it. It was my first celebrity tweet. I've never gotten one before. I was super hyped. First, I went to his profile to make sure, and I was like, that's you.
He had the blue
You
dot.
got the blue check. Like, gotta be you, Don. And so I was like, we started talking a little bit after that, and then he said, hey, man, I want you to score this film. Have you ever scored films before? I was like, psh, yeah. Yeah, so then I did it. It was hard as hell because I've never done anything like that before. And I had to do a lot of it away from Don while he was in L.A. Well, I was going on tour with my band and stuff, so I had to do it remotely. So I had to learn how to do that stuff and send him like ideas, and he was sending me. And the thing is, half of the movie wasn't shot yet, so he'll be sending me what the scene's going to look like in his head and be like, I need music for that. So a lot of times, it'll take me 10 tries of music for it to sync with what's in his head. Yeah, so I would have to write something, and then they would bring in actors. The actors had to act like they're playing what I wrote. And then vice versa, some things he already shot, and we would just put them on mute. And we had to make what they're doing look and sound good.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, look and sound like the best band ever. You know?
So I imagine as a world-class jazz pianist, you're a historian as well. I mean, you know history. So what was that like working on a project that would obviously have to really take into consideration a lot of history and a lot of subtlety?
It was great.
This is Miles Davis.
It's Miles Davis, but I already knew it because that was my shit.
No,
anyway.
I know you did.
Yeah.
But what about Don as a?
Oh, he did too. Well, a lot of people don't know, man. He got a scholarship to college for saxophone. Like, he's a musician.
Don Cheadle.
Okay.
Don Cheadle. He's a musician, dude. Like, dude plays some bass. Like, we were in rehearsal one day going over some of the music for a scene, and he picked up the bass, started playing a Jocko tune. What the fuck you doing? Like, plays a little drums. So he really knows music theory. You know what I mean? So in a real way, we're able to talk in a real way musically. But he actually learned how to play trumpet for real for the role. Like, he can actually play melodies and stuff like that. So it's not all fake. You know what I mean? Keon, my boy Keon, had to go over some and make it seem like make it clean it up with some of the stuff. But a lot of the stuff, the fingering's correct because he had to play to some actual Miles recordings. In the movie, but the fingering that he's doing is correct.
Wow.
Bananas.
Crazy story, though.
What?
About the Grammy. So Don didn't think we were going to win it. So he didn't go. He was like, bro, we're going up against Suicide Squad, Straight Outta Compton, the Amy Winehouse story. We're not winning. You know what I mean?
Those are heavy hitters.
I was kind of like...
And commercially successful.
Commercially successful.
Yeah.
We were not commercially successful. Miles showed in like 3 theaters. Like, literally, I don't even know which one they were. So I was like, we're not winning. But I was like, let's just go, at least to celebrate us getting nominated. And I was like, if we win, you got to get dressed and come down. Because the category was early as hell. It was like 12 p.m. So then when we won, I called him from the stage, I think. I was like, yo, we won. I'm on stage. So he gets dressed. And they come to the thing, so we go back out, because I walked the red carpet going in. So now I want to walk it with Don.
Yeah, word.
You got to walk it with Don.
With the hardware.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Because when I walked with Don, it was the magnet. Everybody came over to us.
Yeah.
Rick Ross, this person, So we walk the red carpet, everything's cool, and we go back into the Grammys. We try. Don went because he hadn't been in yet. So they didn't scan his ticket yet. They scanned my ticket already. They scanned all my team's ticket already. So when we went to go scan again, they were like, we can't rescan. Did you leave? We were like, yeah. They were like, you can't come back in.
Oh.
So we tried to go to the televised portion of the Grammys. They were like, no. So we're standing outside.
Are you holding?
Damn near, I should have been right there. They don't give it to you. It's not like the Emmys where they give it to you immediately. So I'm standing outside. Meanwhile, all these people the guards like, no. Meanwhile, all these people are passing me up like, Robert Glasper, come take a picture. Congratulations on your Grammy. I'm like, sir, see? He's like, I don't care. So it took an hour for them to go get people. We had to give our IDs.
Dang.
And we finally got in.
Yeah.
But it just took an hour.
We touched on your residency at the Blue Note,
Yes.
which you switched up with your different projects. So you've got your solo work, and then you've got the Robert Glasper experiment.
I don't do the experiment anymore.
You don't?
I'm not doing it anymore. So
Why?
I just have so many different projects I want to do. I did that for 10 years. So now I just have so many different projects that I want to get to, you know what I mean? So I had the same band for 10 years, you know? So it's just time to move on.
When you're saying you have so many projects you want to get to, like what projects?
Oh, well, one of them is...
Why don't you share?
One of them is...
This is a perfect opportunity.
Right,
to
perfect opportunity.
talk about.
One of them is a group that I have now. We put out a record. It's called R plus R. It's called R plus R equals now. They did the last week of me at the Blue Note with me. And it's like basically like a super band. It's Christian Scott on trumpet.
Oh, my God.
Terrace Martin on keyboards and vocoder and saxophone. Derek Hodge on bass. Taylor McFerrin beatboxing and doing some keyboard stuff. And
That's
drummer
Bobby
Justin
McFerrin's
Ty-
son.
Yep. Bobby came by the club and sat in with us.
Really?
Yeah, he came and sat in with us.
Taylor's talented
nasty.
in his own right.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, for
Very
sure.
nasty. Yeah,
Cool
yeah.
dude, too.
So that's one of the groups I'm doing now. You know what I mean? And then I have my other group, August Green, with Common and Kareem Riggins. You know, so, and I have a bunch of other stuff in my pocket that I haven't done yet.
So August Green, that was conceived around a Tiny Desk concert, is that right?
Yeah, around there, yeah.
Well, I saw the White House performance.
The White House performance.
Tiny Desk for NPR.
Come on, I met this girl when I was 10 years old. What I love most, she had so much soul. She was old school. I was a shorty, never knew throughout my life she would be there for me on a regular. Not a church girl, she was secular. Not about the money. Studs.
That was special.
I'm like, honestly, I'm like trying to find words because when I watched it, I was just, my jaw dropped.
Right.
I mean, one, it was President Obama's last days,
Yep.
so we were all feeling emotional about that.
Right.
But then, what Common was sharing, and then Bilal singing, and then you on the keys, and Kareem, and the sister you had playing the flute.
Elena Penderhughes.
Bananas.
Amazing.
Did you get any FaceTime with Obama?
Yes,
After the
not
concert?
not that day, but because he wasn't there that day. But when
You met him at the Grammys.
I met Obama. No. No, I met him. I went to my second time going to the White House. I went for International Jazz Day, and I performed a song with Sting and Herbie.
Woo!
No big deal, but just my life every day. You know, it was just a Wednesday, actually, just Wednesday. But that day, I got to meet Obama and talk to him, and me and Terrace was with me too, and we went and we got a chance to talk to him, and because he said it in an interview, like his favorite hip hop song was "How Much a Dollar Cost," Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
And and Terrace produced that song. So Obama sat there and talked to us about why he loves "How Much a Dollar Cost." It was super dope. And I'm on all over that Pimp a Butterfly album. You know what I mean? So it's just like it was us like sitting there like he's talking to us about the Pimp a Butterfly. It's amazing.
Incredible. Can we go back to R plus R and get a little deeper with that? What's that about? And
so
what are you
R
trying to do
plus
with that?
R is the name of the band is R plus R equals now. I made it an equation. And basically it's reflecting and responding equals now. So if you reflect in real time and you respond in real time, then you're relevant. And that's what has to happen, and that's what we're doing in music. You know what I mean? We're responding to what we hear, what our surrounding is. That's why when you hear my music, there's hip hop in it. There's this and there's this in it, because that's now, So I just wanted to get together a bunch of artists who I feel have that same thought process. And Terrace Martin, I've known Terrace since high school, really. We went to a jazz camp. He's from Compton, but we went to jazz camp together, jazz saxophone player. Right soon after that, he started being the music director for Snoop, and then started making beats for Snoop, and then he just started making beats and being that guy. You know what I mean? So he has the jazz, hip hop, both world things happening. And then he went on to produce stuff on all of Kendrick Lamar's albums. And when Good Kid, Mad City came out, the Kendrick Lamar album, I was in love with that album. Like one of my favorite hip hop records. I love that record. I called Terrace. I was like, yo, because he did a lot of stuff on there. I was like, Terrace, dude, Kendrick's next album, you got to get me on there somehow. Please get me on there somehow. So push come to shove, a few years later, I'm in LA. He calls me, yo, you're in LA, right? Come to Dr. Dre's studio right now. Kendrick's here. We're finishing up his new album. I'm like, cool. And I went there to play on this song called For Free. That's on there. It's like a poem, like second song on Pimp a Butterfly. I played that song, but Kendrick was there. He saw me playing. He was like, oh, man, you sound killing. And then he just started pulling up all these songs from the record. Pull up so-and-so. Play what you hear.
Oh,
he
get
pulled
out.
up, yeah, pull up this, pull up that. I played on 8 songs sitting down.
Oh, get out.
In that one sitting.
Crazy.
When you were working on To Pimp a Butterfly, what was your interaction with Dr. Dre?
He wasn't there. Yeah, when I did The Pimp a Butterfly, it was just at Dre's studio.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? But Dre wasn't there.
Uh-huh.
I didn't meet Dre till this year. We had been trying to meet for a long time, for like 2 years, but timing never worked out. You know when I met Dre? At my 40th birthday party in LA.
This year?
This year, April 6th, Dre texted me. In my mind, it wasn't a big party. It was just some people coming to a club to hang out. It wasn't like people were flying in to, you know,
And you responded, you're Dr. Dre.
So he heard, right? So look, he heard, right? So they were like, Dre, like, what time are you getting to your party? I want to fall through. I said, probably around 10:30. I'll be there at 10:30. I pulled up at 10:30. He pulled up at the same time. At my party.
Bring.
You heard it. I heard it. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. So look, me and him chop it up outside the party for about 20 minutes, and then he walks into my party with me. I walked into my 40th birthday party in LA with Dr. Dre.
And this time the security guards let you in.
This time they let me in. After they didn't see me. Nobody saw me. All they saw was Dre. I was like, it's my birthday.
Should have the Grammys in hand.
Exactly. So we walk in, and he hangs out, and Herbie comes to the party. But while I was playing, my manager saw Dr. Dre walk up to Herbie. He came on stage. Herbie's on the side of the stage. Walked up to Herbie and introduced himself to Herbie. Like, hi, I'm Dr. Dre. At my party. Like that's like crazy.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? That's super bananas. Super bananas.
Oh, man.
Let's talk about jazz. Jazz today, jazz in 2018. I think, that means different things to different people.
Right.
What does it mean to you?
I come from a lineage of different styles of music that my people gave to the world. You know what I mean? And so in my world, jazz is just it's a big house with many rooms. Black music in general for me is a big house with many rooms, and I can go room to room. So in any given time, it could sound like something, it could sound like this, it could sound like that, but it's all improvised music. It just depends on what your influence is. That's what makes it sound different. Wherever you come from, that's what it's going to be. So, everybody's jazz isn't going to be the same or sound alike. It's a story of a person and where you come from, your lineage, and what you love in life, what you don't love in life, all these things.
I think for a lot of people, they think of jazz as an older generation's music.
They do.
How important is it to you to bring younger people into the fold?
It's important because I feel like jazz has always been the new music of its time. You know what I mean? In 1920, it wasn't old. It was new. Mm-hmm. 1930, it was new. 1940, it was new. It was the new sound. 50s, it was the new sound.
And the newest. It's always been
the newest.
The most
it was on the cutting edge,
sure.
avant-garde. Like parents, people were like, "What are you doing?" In 1970, same thing. It just had electronic instruments came into play and became jazz fusion. So then that's when the separation started happening, where jazz musicians were like, hey, you can't use electric bass, that's not real jazz. And you can't use electric keyboard, that's not real jazz. That's where that separation started coming from. And when the electric people started playing jazz, and it started mixing with funk, and and then it became, took on some other life and some other things. So the acoustic straight ahead cats are like, no, this is jazz over here. We don't want to conform and change the sound. We can't play that. So that's where you get those people who are like, jazz is one thing, jazz is this. But it's not. It's the tradition of jazz is that it always changes. So if somebody says you got to stick with the tradition, they don't know what the tradition is, because the tradition is it doesn't stick. It keeps moving.
Can you share with us ways that you maybe have attempted to endear younger people?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, first of all, I try to incorporate more genres of music, because jazz is not a thriving genre of music. There are like 10 jazz radio stations in the world, and they all play music from before 1970. So there's nothing connecting young people to the music at all. Literally nothing connecting young. There's no reason why a 20-year-old would like jazz by listening to jazz radio. I can't be mad if they don't like it. But it's the same thing if you played Cardi B right now for your grandmother. Would you be like, why don't you like this? You wouldn't, because you understand musically and just the way life has changed and the way, it's just different. You know what I mean? There's no connection to Cardi B and your grandmother.
Well, except for her song, I Like It Like That.
I like it.
Which is the Pete Rodriguez.
But, you get that immediately. You know what I'm saying? If I play Lil Wayne for my grandmother right now, she'd be like, what the hell are you, what is this? She comes from real instruments. She comes from jazz. She doesn't come from a hip-hop world. So if you flip that same idea around, you got to understand why there's a disconnect or why they don't like it. It's not a hard concept to understand. Mm-hmm. So I just try to incorporate those kinds of sounds in my music, the sounds that I like. You know what I mean? I'm not selling out. I'm not putting things in my music just so young people can like it, and I don't like it too. You know what I mean? These are things that I also like. I also like different styles of music, and I also like to mix them into jazz and do that whole thing. So when people come to my shows, if you ever come to one of my shows, you'll see how diverse the audience is. There's very few artists where you'll have an 80-year-old white lady and a 15-year-old black kid.
That was my mom.
At the same.
Shout out to Ava.
You know what I mean? But I say that all the time. Like, that's how mixed my audience is. Like, it's super mixed.
Which is not typical for jazz shows.
Not typical for any show. Think about it.
True indeed.
It's interesting because you've been able to achieve this without compromising yourself.
Exactly.
Or compromising jazz.
Exactly.
Which is that's the impossible task.
Exactly, because that's the thing. Normally there's a weak link, and you can hear it if you know the styles. Mm-hmm. You can hear when the jazz musician is trying to play hip-hop because you hear that shit, and you're like, okay, you're a fan of hip-hop. But you don't really know how to play the shit. You know what I mean? You didn't really dig in, or vice versa. When a cat's trying to play jazz, that's not a jazz musician. I hear the first measure. I know it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Jazz seems to lean towards a male-dominated experience, and you do have Elena Penderhughes, Esperanza Spalding.
Yep.
You have women who are prominent. Mm-hmm. The legacy of all the Ella Fitzgeralds and Sarah Vaughns and everything. But where are women in 2018 in the forward progression of jazz?
I think jazz is just a male-dominated sport, and I think a lot of females get run over by that. There's a lot of sexism in music in general. You know what I mean? And so that's why I'm trying to be more vocal about, especially people that I have a musical connection with. Almost every project I do, I call her to do. I call Esperanza all the time. There's just, it's an imbalance. You know what I mean? It's not that the female jazz musician is lacking, like there aren't any out there. They're out there. And there's a lot of good female jazz musicians. Great female jazz musicians. You know what I mean? But it's just one of those things where I think guys have to pay more attention and bring it to the forefront and try to change it. It's like white people helping to change racism. You know what I mean? Like, it takes somebody white sometimes to be like, no, this is what needs to happen. And then people start listening. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? So it takes men to start saying like, hey, bro, she's dope. Why are you not using her? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? What's up with that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it takes more of that. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to be more aware of that myself. You know what I mean? And try to change that narrative. Mm-hmm.
Dope.
And not just make it about the singer all the time. You know what I mean? That's when people use female. Oh, I got a singer.
Right.
Like they put them in that box. Like a female don't play drums. Like some of my favorite drummers are females. Nikki Gillespie is amazing. Kim Thompson. There's a lot of different great female jazz musicians out there. Musicians in general, not just jazz, but
Word.
You talked about your audience being incredibly diverse, both in race and age. But I don't know if that's typical for jazz audiences. I went to see my boy Theo Coker the other day perform. The audience was predominantly white.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
I think a long time ago, white people made jazz into like something you sit down and you appreciate. Like, this is good. You know what I mean? Like one of those things. It wasn't Harlem
like
in
a
the jazz
tennis match.
It was in like a chess match. Yeah, like golf or some shit. I don't know. But it wasn't Harlem in the dance clubs. Everything's popping. You're dancing. You're having a good time. Blah blah blah. Then they took the dance floor away and put chairs in it. You know what I mean? And then for a long time, we weren't allowed to go to jazz clubs. You know what I mean? Got to look at it that way too. Black people weren't allowed to go to jazz clubs. Even the people who were performing, the artists you went to see wasn't even allowed to come in through the front. They had to go through the back, and they had to eat in the kitchen. And we were treated like, shit, but we were the main act. You know what I mean? So it's not something that we're used to doing. Going to jazz shows is not something that's normal. You know what I mean? So I think it has something to do with that, and I think it just has something to do with, I don't know. I think Black people just love new stuff. Like when it comes to when you go to see jazz, when you go to jazz clubs, you see older white people. It's not like you're seeing a bunch of young white people. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily that. You know what I mean? So I feel like when you do something that's related to now and something the story of now, you start seeing more Black people. You know what I mean? But with jazz in general, I think there's just so many jazz musicians that live in the past. They're living in the past they didn't even live in. It's not even their past they're living in. You know what I mean? Like, you weren't around in 1950. Where's your story? Why are you telling that story? That has nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? Like, where is your story?
Sure.
And a lot of people don't have their own story. They have the story they're taught in college or something. You know what I mean? Or what they think jazz is supposed to be.
Academic.
And they're not liberated in being themselves. You know what I mean? I remember when I got liberated. I remember the day I saw Roy Hargrove play at my high school. I was a senior in high school, and Roy Hargrove came to my high school. And he had on overalls and Timberlands. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, you can play jazz. First of all, I'd never seen an all-Black band. So it was my first time singing an all-Black band, and I'm like, and it's jazz, which shouldn't be like that, but that's what it was. I've never seen it before. And they all were dressed like me, and they looked like me. That inspired me to be who I am. I was like, you can be who you are right now, still have the language, practice, and be one of the best at what you're doing, and still be you. You know what I mean? Most jazz musicians feel like you have to wear a suit and a tie every time you play, because back then when you were Black, you had to wear a suit and tie to get any sort of little respect.
Sure.
You had to dress like that. You know what I mean? You couldn't, getting respect shouldn't have anything what you have on. You know what I mean? And as a man, I want you to respect me as a man and who I am, not because I wear a suit. So that's why I never wear suits except when I'm going to the Grammys.
Which is often.
Or when I'm going to the Emmys. Whatever. We're not talking about my Emmy either. But we didn't bring that up. We're going to talk about my Emmy later. But, I want kids to look at me and say, wow, he looks like me. And get inspired the way I was.
That's happening.
It's always happening.
That's happening.
100%.
That's not even you want it. That is actual fact.
100%.
Yeah. I mean,
when
look
you
at
don't
you
look
right
like
now.
their principal, they don't. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't want you to look like their principal. They don't want to be that. You want to be what you see.
So Robert, multiple Grammys. You got an Emmy for your song "Letter to the Free" from Ava DuVernay's 13th.
Yes.
Incredible project.
Super.
Is the EGOT in sight or what?
Hey man, right now I'm an egg. Common needs a Tony. We're discussing a Broadway play.
Well, can you tell us about that?
I don't know much about it.
EGOT is Emmy, Grammy, Oscar,
Yep.
Tony.
Yeah.
He has Emmy, Grammy, Oscar.
Okay.
He just needs a Tony. So we're gonna have that conversation. We're gonna have it in a real way, but we're definitely gonna sit down and really try to do a Broadway play. I don't know we don't have any details. It hasn't been flushed out yet.
Yeah.
But that's the next move.
Amazing.
So
if you need any white people that
white guy number 2.
I'm in.
Okay. Gotcha. So that would be that would be something I would love to do anyway. But that would be the Tony part.
Dope.
All right. Coming up next, it's the impression session with Robert Glasper.
The following message comes from our sponsor, Capital One. The CreditWise app from Capital One recently released 3 new features, including a social security number tracker to help users quickly detect fraud for free. Here's head of CreditWise, Joe Whitchurch.
While identity fraud is intimidating and can sound really complex, a little bit of effort can go a long way in helping you understand if you've been a victim of identity fraud.
CreditWise is free for everyone, whether you're a Capital One customer or not. You can find CreditWise in your app or Play Store now. Support for NPR and the following message come from the Lagunitas Brewing Company. Original employee Ron Lindenbush remembers when the founder asked him to take over Lagunitas Community Giving Program.
And I said, "What's our limit?" And he said, "I don't think we have one. I don't want to say no. When beer can turn into money to help a good cause, I don't want to say no to anybody."
To learn more, visit Lagunitas.com/community.
It's the sound of the funky drums, and that means one thing. It is time for the impression session with Robert Glasper.
I don't even know what this is. I'm scared.
Robert, what we're going to do right now is play you a track.
Okay.
You react, as simple as that. Sound good?
You're going to play me a track and I react?
Yeah, that's it.
We're going to play some music, and you can just talk about it in any way you want.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and this is jazz. It's free
Okay.
form. Whatever
no
you want to
problem.
do.
No problem. I can be pretty brutal.
Yeah.
It's not one of y'all's.
Oh no, it doesn't have
one
to be
of your nephew's beat tapes or some shit.
Wow.
I'm about to shred it.
You might. Yeah. I'm going first.
Yeah. The hell is this? They should be killed.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah, but I like the first quote-unquote jazz artist that I gravitated to when I was already sort of an autonomous young music collector.
Oh, you started really open.
So it's an album where he touches on reggae and funk and all that.
Okay.
And I think in that way...
Oh, that's cool. Because my first Miles album was Miles Around the World.
Uh-huh.
And it was when he was doing electric stuff.
Okay.
He was doing Human Nature and Time After Time and stuff like that. Songs I knew. So I gravitated to that first. And then I got into the rest of it. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, well, that's why I picked it, because for me it was like it was an invitation into, and I think
I just knew Don Cherry from Ornette Coleman, doing a lot of stuff with Ornette Coleman, his Super Out, stuff like that. But I never heard that before.
I thought you were gonna slay him for the
no, I could tell
the opening rap. I
could tell it was an OG. I mean, I could tell. It was early. Like I said, I thought it was late 80s. It felt like, So for that time, fuck yeah.
It's aged well, actually, to me. I mean, I played it for Bobby. He started laughing hysterically. I was like, yo, I really like this.
Right.
All right.
Next.
I could have co-signed the verse there, but props to Don Cherry. All right, so let's get to the next song. That's a woman playing the violin. Her name is Mireya Ramos.
Mireya Ramos?
Mireya Ramos.
Okay.
Can you say it with the rolling R? Ramos.
Ramos. Who's on piano?
That's Robert Glasper.
Oh shit, it's the joint?
Yeah.
I wasn't the first part wasn't me. The first part was
Eddie Palmieri.
Dude, that's why I felt like I haven't heard it since the first time I heard it.
Got you.
Oh shit. Okay. That's so funny.
Well, for our audience, that is the title track.
Yeah, the opening song.
The title track to a film that I music supervised, directed, wrote, and produced, titled Rock Rubber 45s. And the first piano is by Eddie Palmieri, 10-time Grammy Award winner, National Endowment of the Arts Jazz Master. And then Robert
it goes down a few notches to me. Thanks. He's like, the first pianist is 13 Grammys.
We just would like to end on that note.
And a jazz master.
Grammy tsunami.
And the second. Yo, I haven't heard it since we first heard it. That's crazy.
My vision with having him on this track was I want to hear him on some
hip-hop
hard hip-hop drums.
Right.
And then for you, I kind of left it open.
Yeah.
And then you played a montuno, and for the people who don't know, that a montuno is like in Afro-Cuban music, the sort of the rhythm, the piano rhythm.
Yep.
You blew it out the frame.
Word.
But I was curious, like, what are your Latin roots, or your roots in Latin music? Because clearly, there's something there. You played that too naturally.
I love Chucho Valdez.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love Gonzalo Rubalcaba.
I don't even know
Gonzalo
who that is.
Rubalcaba? Woo.
New artist or old?
Oh, no. He's older. Well, he's not old as Chucho, but Gonzalo's probably 50-something.
Okay.
But he's like, by far, probably the most technically sound pianist in the world.
He's from Cuba?
In jazz. Yeah, we're both in the same label, both on Blue Note.
Okay.
Yeah, he's Cuban. Yeah,
dope.
He's Cuban. Yeah. So I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of those two. And I've got Gonzalo, like I said, we're on the same label. You know what I mean? And I've just watched his shit from when I was in high school. I was such a fan. He's done duo shows with Herbie and Chick. You know what I mean? He's just one of those.
Chick is nasty too.
Oh my
Chick
God.
Corea.
I mean, he's definitely. But but for sure. So and I went to school with one of my friends, Latino piano player Richard Cruz in high school. So he used to show me montunos and stuff in high school.
Oh, word.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's a little bit where I'm not super deep in it, but I have these little connections where I'm like, okay, I get it. I get the vibe.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
for sure.
Good stuff, man.
Yes,
Maybe me,
indeed.
you, and Stretch will work on a Latin album at
I
some
would love
point.
that.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
And my boy Carlito Henriquez, you know Carlito? He's a bass player. He plays in Lincoln Center with Winton.
Okay.
Upright bass player. But we went to college together. So he was always hitting me to Latin music, like so much stuff. You know what I mean? He plays with Gonzalo Rubalcaba too, and just in all kinds of situations. But yeah.
All right, man. I think that's a wrap, Stretch.
Yes, it is. That is our show.
Wait, but that's our season.
Oh my gosh!
I was just
Did
telling
I just
him that,
end the
and
season
I was
2
just telling
of
him
Stretch
that.
Bobbito? Did I just do that?
You're
Bar.
the closer, yo.
Yeah,
You're the closer.
Yeah, we have to thank you for being. That's right.
Man,
the guest on our final episode of season 2 of
It's
What's
an
Good
honor.
with Stretch and Bobbito. Thank you so much.
It's an honor, bro. Appreciate that.
Word up.
Thank you. Because they told me the rest, y'all needed some celebrity because you didn't have much on season 2. Who'd you have here?
Lenny
heard
Kravitz.
Of, never heard of him. Yeah.
Badu.
Nah.
Black. What's his name? Black Thinking.
Thought.
Got nothing. Nope. Never heard of him. So I'm glad I can help y'all out. And give y'all some, some people can chew.
Robert Glasper, everybody.
Aplausos! Word up. Peace.
That is our show and our season. This podcast was produced by Michelle Lanz, edited by Alexander McCall, Jordana Hochman, and Nigeri Eaton, and our executive producer is Abby O'Neill. Please remember to fill out our survey at npr.org/podcast survey. It will really help us out.
Music is provided by DJ Ellie as well as myself, and I actually want to shout out the security in the NPR New York office. Hussein and Ego are just quality individuals. I so look forward to them greeting us when we arrive. They're just lovely human beings. We haven't shouted them out the whole season. So Ego, Hussein, y'all the fam. If you like the show, you can hear more at npr.org. And please go to Apple Podcasts and rate, review, and subscribe. That's how we know you are listening.
And if you'd like to follow us on Twitter, we are Stretch and Bob. And on Instagram, we are Stretch and Bobbito.
What about peace?
Peace!